Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar tonight on effective group management. Thank you very much for taking the time this evening to join us. I'm going to run through some of the aspects of noteworthiness on effective group management firstly, and then I'm going to pass you over to the group leaders, Keith McAvoy, Jerry Byrne and Sarah Taggart, who are going to provide us with their own kind of on-the-ground experience, I suppose, in this area. My name is Rachel Brennan. I'm part of the Volunteer Resource Management and Group Support Core team, and I'm also part of the Wexford Scout County 2nd Wexford Scout Group as well. So our first thing tonight, we're just going to have a quick look at what tonight's webinar, the aims of it. We want to ensure the groups are working within the correct group structures, making sure there is a distinction between the group council and the other group meetings. So some people call it the group assembly, scout meet, programme meeting, etc. We'll take a look at the best practices tonight, acknowledging that not all groups are working exactly to the same T. All of this information is to help groups working towards the charity registration status, and for those who are already registered, just to ensure they're keeping on the right track. And at the end of tonight's session then, we'll also just highlight some of the important documentation available to groups for effective group management. So I suppose to get us started, the first thing we're going to take a quick look at tonight is the group council members. So here we can see a full list of the members of the group council. These are the only members, which are known also as the trustees of the Scout group. There's a maximum number of members of Scout Group Council, and that's 7 members. An important thing to note is that if someone holds a position that's listed here on the screen, so if you're group leader, group chairperson, group secretary, group treasurer, group youth champion, group quartermaster, bosun, they're titles that are actually given, then by default they take on a position within the group council. You can't have somebody voted in as, let's say, the group treasurer who decides themselves they're not going to be a group council member. So it's not an option within the group structure. If you hold the list of positions, then you are a group council member and a trustee of the Scout group. And you'll note there, just the 7th member then is another person who is someone over the age of 18. They're elected at an annual general meeting of the Scout group. So they're your 7 members of your group council. So like I said, the important thing to note is if you hold one of those positions, then you are by default the group council member and trustee of the Scout group. The next thing we're just going to take a quick look at the group council is the group council functions. So the functions of the Scout Group Council, they can be found in Article 12.2 of the Scout Group Constitution. And don't worry, I'm not going to read through all of these here and now. I'm just going to highlight a few of you. You can go off and have a quick read through them yourself. So I suppose if you look at point A, to oversee and coordinate all the activities of the Scout Group, and point B, to control and allocate the finances and maintain proper accounts, you'll instantly see that these are a big part of the Scout Group registration as a charity. So if you're familiar with the charity registration, you'll be familiar with these 2 functions, I suppose, more than some of the other ones. Function F there is to provide support to Scout Group Scouters who deliver the youth programme within the programme section. So this doesn't mean that the Group Council runs the Scout programme for the entire Scout group. They support the programme Scouters, they ensure that they're providing the programme, and if they see if they can provide any supports that might be required to allow them to keep a successful programme functioning. Looking there to point C, to convene an annual general meeting of the Scout group. This is a function that the Group Council would initiate and ensure is held annually. It's important as well to note here that there's 2 AGMs to be held within the Scout group each year. So the Scout group AGM is for the adult and youth members of the group. So essentially it deals with the business of the group, and then the second AGM that's to be held is the parents and friends representative of the AGM. So like I said, you can find all the functions there of the Scout Group Council in Article 12.2 of the Scout Group Constitution. So I highly recommend going off and having a read through those to get a good idea of what the actual Scout Group Council does as part of its function. The other meetings that should be taking place in the Scout groups, so I suppose there's several names by which this is known as. It's an important meeting, and like I said, it's referred to as a number of different things. It might be called in some Scout groups the leaders meeting, the group assembly, the programme council, etc. What has caused some confusion in recent years by this meeting, I suppose, is that previously this type of meeting would have always been referred to by a lot of Scout groups as the group council. But as we've just seen from the previous slides there, the Group Council now has a new setup and a new set of functions as well. So I suppose, what is this other meeting? So as I just mentioned, it goes by a number of different names. My own group, we refer to it as the Group Assembly, but essentially it's a meeting where all our group members can get together. And the important element of that is that a meeting which our youth members can actually attend, because the important thing with the Group Council is that the youth members can't be taking up any of those roles. So you can't be a member of the Group Council if you are under the age of 18. So that's where this meeting comes into play a lot more, where youth members get to attend and participate just as they would have previously in the other structure, and it allows their voice to be heard as well. So I suppose this meeting is where the group members, they get together, they discuss how programme is going, what activities are coming up in the different sections. They might highlight some training requirements that they feel their scouters might need to look at if they're taking the ventures up to Ben Nevis maybe next summer. It's where the group leader can inform everybody about upcoming national AGM, different motions might be put forward and discussions like that. The group assembly style meeting is not where the financial decisions are made. So as I previously outlined before, they're up in the functions of the group council. But it is where I suppose the Beaver section can put forward a request to the group council to discuss and maybe assess the viability of purchasing new tents for the upcoming Jamoiga camp. But that decision would go back to be held by the group council and made by the group council. But it's definitely important to be able to distinguish between the separation of the functions of the group council and the other group meetings, be it that it's referred to as group leader meeting, programme council. So I suppose, like I mentioned at the start, we've some group leaders here this evening who are going to, I suppose, share their on-the-ground experience with us and talk us through kind of how their group functions and how they effectively manage their group. So I'm going to pass you over first to Keith McAvoy, who's going to share his experience with us.
Good evening all, Keith McAvoy here. I'm group leader for Fort Port of Wicklow Sea Scouts. I've been involved in scouting for 4 years and group leader for 14 months, so relatively new compared to a lot of people that are out there. The Fort Wicklow Sea Scouts, the makeup of Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Ventures. We don't really have a rover section at the moment, but we are trying. Within our Beaver section, we've 17 youth members. They have a Zoom call every 2 weeks at the moment with the current restrictions, but when we're back, it's every Thursday evening. We've 5 leaders for our Beaver section. For our Cubs, it's 20 youth members. We meet every 2 weeks again on Zoom. We do meet on a Monday night when the restrictions are lifted, and there's 5 leaders in that section also. And in Scouts, we have 36 youth members, and they meet every Monday night by Zoom, and then there'll be every Monday night once the restrictions are lifted. And we've also 5 leaders in there. Our Ventures is fairly small. We've 6 youth members, and they meet also on Zoom at the moment every week. And we've 2 leaders with Ventures, which I normally join when needed to bring the numbers up a little bit if need be. We're located in Wicklow town. So, and then currently the way we run our meetings is we've our group council with 7 trustees that meet once every 2 months. We also can call an emergency meeting if need be, if we've issues to talk about that need to be resolved quickly. When we call our group council, we send out an agenda every 3 days before the meeting. Within the agenda, we've our minutes of last meeting, our finance overview, our group update, and our plan then for the next 2 months is what we talk about, and any other business that comes up. If any of our leaders have brought anything up to our group council members, we need to discuss. We then also have our group assembly or our leaders meeting. They meet every 3 months. An agenda is sent out once again 3 days before that, and the same things again. Minutes at last meeting, finance overview, group update by section. We plan for the next 3 months then with the sections, and then once again any other business. Our group AGM, which is our leaders, our parents and friends, meet once a year. An agenda is handed out on the night. The agenda will cover same thing again, minutes of last meeting, finance overview, group update by section. And we plan then with the parents and the friends for the next year, and then if they want to bring anything of stuff they would like to do or bring to the front for us to discuss, and then we talk about any other business. We've only recently applied and been accepted by the charity regulators. We've been out with this and got our charity number. We've been able to apply for a couple of grants using our own number over the last few months, and it actually went quite well and a lot quicker than the group have seen normally when we were using the overall scouting charity number. So anybody who's out there, I would say get going on it and get it done. It's a lot easier than what you might think. I know with all the paperwork and all, it's very daunting, but it is actually quite easy and quite good. So I'll hand you over to Jerry now. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks very much, Kate. I'm Jerry Byrne from St Patrick's Scout Group in Dundalk. Just about me, I joined as a youth member and I'm still here. Over the years, I've been in all the sections, probably twice at this stage, as I've been quite a strong advocate of leaders moving sections every 4 or 5 years, keeps everybody fresh. Currently, I'm in one of the Scout troops and I'm also group leader. Our group has 2 beaver colonies, 2 cub packs, 2 Scout troops, 1 venture and 1 Nova crew, and 38 registered leaders. We operate from our own hall on the Castletown Road and have recently completed a major overhaul, making it fire compliant. Another Scout group also operates about 500 metres away from us, so scouting is quite strong in Dundalk. Our group is quite traditional. It was set up in the 1950s by former Chief Scout Peter Dixon. So we're old style scouting. We do flag prayer at the beginning and end of every meeting. Be particularly fussy about uniform standards and generally follow the scouting trail, really traditional scouting, but that's what works for us. The way we operate, our group council, we hold it every 3 months or more if need be, but 1 week previous to group council, we have our leaders meeting where all the leaders come together. They discuss whatever they like, and then the 2 group reps who sit on group council, who also sit on the group leaders meeting, bring all their things forward. And then it's up for discussion, or if it needs to be passed, or more information. All these meetings are just neckerchief, with the exception then of our AGM, which is full and proper uniform. From a finance point of view, the group leader and treasurer can okay small expenditure, but anything major has to be passed by group council. Communication within the group is very important, I feel. If people don't know what's going on, they feel like they're left out and they're not important. So we've several different WhatsApp groups from all the different sections, and then regular I'd send out a newsletter so everybody knows what every section's doing. So it's very important that the beavers and beaver leaders know what venturer and rovers are doing. It just keeps everybody tied in one group. Keep all the leaders' morale up. We would encourage going out together every now and then, always have a Christmas party. And in the past, we've ordered leaders' trips. We've gone to Kanderstag, we've gone to Gilwell. You know, it just keeps the whole group together quite well. On the charity regulator, it came across quite daunting when we started. But once we got stuck into it, in all honesty, a couple of evenings with 3 or 4 group council members sorted out most of it. And then a couple of small bits and pieces back and forth, and it went through quite smoothly by the time it was finished. Having the charity regulator status, I think, just puts another thing in the group that people from outside can see what we're doing is right. And, you know, all the parents know that we have this, so everything we're doing is right. And as Keith mentioned, we have used it on new applications for funding. So I think everybody should push for it and get it sorted. That's about me, unless we have questions, so I'll pass you on to Sarah.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Taggart and I'm the group leader for Downpatrick Scout Group in Down and Connor Scout County up in the Northern Province. I suppose I've been involved in scouting for now probably 27 years. I joined Downpatrick Scout Group as a venture and I haven't left. I became a scouter at 18, primarily in the scout section where I've been scouter in charge, but I've also had a stint as a cub leader and assisted with the venture section. I haven't really been brave enough to take on the beaver section, so I'm currently in my 2nd term as group leader. So Downpatrick Scout Group, we were established in around 1963. We're based in the county town of Down, rumoured to be the home of St Patrick. We operate beaver, pub, scout and venture sections with around 20 scouters and around 80 youth members, and we operate on 4 nights during the week. Unfortunately, due to COVID, these numbers have taken a slight nosedive over the last year, but hopefully when we're allowed back into our hall, we'll be able to increase the numbers again. So we have our own purpose-built scout hall, and we operate our hall as a business with user groups pay us rent and in order to use the space. We're lucky enough we can employ 2 staff. We employ a cleaner and a centre manager, and he assists us with the everyday running of the hall. We're also very lucky we have 3 minibuses, 2 9-seaters, which have space in the back for equipment, and a 17-seater. And as we run our hall as the business, I suppose trustees have always been part of our group, with our management committee being trustees of the hall, and we're very fortunate to have some lifelong supporters of the group who've signed up to be the hall trustees. Since 2017, we've been registered as a charity with the Charities Commission here in Northern Ireland, and we changed. We previously held a group council, I suppose as Rachel had said, in the normal manner with all the leaders. And we changed that then just to the trustees. And we hold quarterly meetings as a group council, and we have leader meetings prior to these, so that any issues that need to be agreed at the group council level can be flagged up. And within our group council, the chairperson, the vice chair, the assistant group leader and the quartermaster are all non-programme scouters. And then myself as group leader, the treasurer and the secretary are programme scouters. Our leader meetings are held a few weeks prior to the group council meetings so that any issues can be flagged up and can be put onto the agenda for the group council. All of our leaders are invited to attend these meetings, and notes of each of these meetings are kept. There's formal minutes then of each of the group council meetings drawn up, and these are approved by the chairperson. We also hold a uniformed AGM each year, our most recent being held in February via Zoom, which was an experience for some of our office bearers. And we prepare an annual report arising out of the AGM. This details all the activities that each of the sections have been involved in over the previous year, as well as details of our accounts. And we find these documents are extremely beneficial to send to potential grant providers, as the annual report provides a snapshot of what Scouting is on the ground. And it highlights the success to funders who maybe wouldn't have any sort of idea of what Scouting is about. I suppose then, as a registered charity, you do face tougher restrictions and regulations to ensure that your charity is being run correctly. And I suppose that can be seen as a benefit or a pitfall. But the trustees are in place then of the group to ensure that the group's money is used to benefit the members, and being our own registered charity through the Charity Commission has enabled us to access some grants which we previously wouldn't have been eligible for under the Scouting Ireland umbrella charity number. So that's just a quick snapshot of our group. Thanks everyone for listening to me, and I think we're handing back now to Rachel.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks, Sarah. So I suppose that was great insight into the groups there. I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions there with Jerry, just before we move on any further.
Yeah, Rachel, we have a couple of very pertinent questions in, I think very relevant to the thing here. First one is from Joe. It says, if a member of group council is not willing to be a trustee for the group, can they still be a part of group council? My understanding is that three minimum are required to be trustees. Please clarify. Now, you did mention this in the beginning, but maybe you'd clarify it again. Rachel?
Yeah, no problem at all. So yeah, like I said, if you hold a position that's listed as a group council member, then by holding that position, by default, you do become a trustee, and that is a role that you take on. I suppose the minimum number comes back into play really for groups who may have lower Scouter numbers and who do find it difficult to fill all those 7 roles. So that's why I suppose the minimum number is there. We've got the maximum number and the kind of ideal minimum number that the charity regulator would like to see in place. So if you have somebody who is a treasurer who doesn't want to be a group council member or a trustee, it's not an option. It wouldn't really be acceptable to the charity regulator because they're holding a position where these, I suppose, important decisions are being made for the management of the group. So like I said at the start, if you do hold a position that's listed, then you are by default taking on a position with that on the group council, and you will become a registered charity of your, a trustee of your charity once you become registered.
Okay, Rachel, I think that clarifies it there. Second one is maybe not as easy to clarify. It comes from Oisin. Given that the group council can override the views of the group assembly, how do groups ensure that youth members' voices will be heard, considering that we are a youth-led organisation? Maybe I'll throw that one to Jerry in Dundalk. You've got quite a large group with a large youth membership there. Jerry?
Yeah, am I back on now? Sorry, Jerry. Jerry, we would have a youth representative. Now, it's a young leader at the leaders' meetings, and that young leader then comes to group council. So I know we call him a youth champion here. We just call him a youth rep, but he's an over 18 youth rep who is part of group council. So it's through him that the feedback should come up and down. Does that clarify, or am I confusing the issue more?
No, it is an option. I think there. Would either of the other two group leaders maybe like to comment on that as to how they ensure that the youth voice is heard at group council, seeing as youth members cannot be a member of group council? Sarah, maybe?
Yeah, happy enough to come in. I suppose we, given that all of the leaders involved in, in the group council are all there for the benefit of the young people, then there's no point in doing something to override the views of the young people coming up. Young people are very quick to vote with their feet, and if you're overriding all of their decisions or all of their recommendations, you'll soon have none left, and then there's no real point of you having a group council or a group assembly or whatever, So I suppose for us, it's taking cognizance of what they're asking for, so long as it's within the parameters of what we can be delivering, and it's not asking for the moon, So.
Yeah. Yeah. Not wishing to offer an opinion, but I think maybe groups will need to work out for themselves how that can be achieved. There is a point, again, it's just coming back in again, saying that in Jerry's case, that member is over 18 years of age. The definition of youth is under 26. So they are a youth champion, but as is pointed out here, may not be seen to represent maybe the individual beavers and cubs, but I'm sure groups can come to a way of doing that. A couple of other questions here, more structural. I'm not quite sure. One says, was there any problem getting volunteers for trustees? Well, I presume that any group that has gone through the charities regulator, they have achieved the relevant number of trustees. In the groups that have gone through here, did you find any problem in getting people to allow themselves to be nominated as trustees? Keith?
No, we didn't find it, because basically we had our 7 even before we went to the charity regulator. So the 7 of our trustees knew exactly what was involved. We had lengthy discussions with it, and they were given the option, if they didn't want to be a trustee, then to step back from the position they held within the group council. But everybody actually agreed that it was for the good of the group, and they agreed to take on the trustee role.
Okay. Sarah, you've been through this quite some time ago.
Yeah. So I suppose, as I said, when I was doing my talk there, we have always had trustees because we run our hall as a business. So we've always used trustees, and so there was no, I suppose there's no fear with our current trustees. They've all been involved. They're all sort of professional people, and we explained to them exactly what was required of them, and we had no issues with them signing up. No.
Okay. I hope that satisfies some of those questions to some extent. There's one other question here, which I think is quite pertinent. It says, I'm going to answer it myself in a different way. It says, how much are groups paying for the trustee insurance? We are having a webinar next week, this night week, on the trustee insurance, and that will be publicised tomorrow. And the registration for that will open. And all aspects of the trustee insurance, the presentation will be made by our brokers, Marsh, on the trustee insurance. So all questions pertaining to the trustee insurance can and will be answered that. So it'll be 7 o'clock next Thursday night, and the information on that will be sent out to group leaders tomorrow. So rather than getting into that, because we're not prepared for that type of question this evening, it's something to watch out for tomorrow. Just one more quick rundown. Somebody says they're only getting used to Teams. Well, that's not something we can help with here. Another couple on the insurance. What proportion of groups have registered with the regulator? I can't answer that straight up. I'll answer it in a very general way. The bulk of the groups in Northern Ireland have registered. Am I correct in that, Sarah?
I think all groups in
Northern Ireland have registered.
Yeah.
And as I understand, in excess of 20 have been approved by the regulator down here, and there are a number of other groups pending with the regulator. So exactly how many I can't tell you at this moment in time, but it's in excess of 20 are registered, and there's a number pending with the regulator. What register? Just no, I think we may not have covered every question, but we've covered more or less the key questions asked there. There's a couple more there on insurance, and a couple more on youth participation, or youth voice, there. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to make them known. If it's charities regulator, it's charities regulator. Oh, there's a very specific email for the charities regulator. You will find it in the pack, and otherwise you can relay questions to your support officer, who will endeavour to get the answer for you on that. Maybe just hand back to Rachel to tidy up at the end.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jerry, for that. So like Jerry said, if anybody has any other questions, you have a couple of, just a minute or two there if you want to pop them up, and we'll see about getting the answers out to everybody as soon as we can as well on that. I suppose just to finish off then, I just want to say thank you to the group leaders for sharing their valuable experiences with us this evening. It's not easy getting up and having to speak. I suppose it's lucky enough that we can't actually see everybody here tonight. It makes it a little bit easier. But I hope that you were able to take something away from the shared information here tonight. And like I said, if you have any other questions, there is a dedicated charity registration email address or contact. I suppose, like I said, it's on the screen here. You've got your county commissioner, your county management team, they're available as a support to you, as well as the support officers, and especially when it comes to the charity registration, they've been working on this for quite some time, so they're very familiar with a lot of those elements. Another support, I suppose, that's there for groups are the group constitution and the charter. They're good reference documents, and I would definitely encourage all groups and group members to familiarise themselves with those. So for example, the function of the group council, as I outlined in my earlier slides, make sure you have a read through that to fully understand what the function of a group council is. The templates that are set out there for the charity regulator, they contain an invaluable set of resources for groups to use, to follow, to be able to complete the process. They were very well put together, and from my experience of listening to the groups who've gone through the whole process, they did find them quite easy to navigate through, so definitely have a good read of those. There's also some accompanying resources, and these resources will actually be available after the webinar. So once the webinar goes live over the next few days on the Scouting Ireland website, you'll also be able to find all those resources that are up on the screen there now. So the sample documents that are listed, like I said, they'll be available. And again, just like the other documents I mentioned, just have a quick read through them. You might find there's some that you already have in place for your group, especially those that have been established for some time, but you might be able to take some good kind of template from it. Just for an example, there's some groups who might have no tradition of a parent and friends support group. So when it comes to running a parents and friends AGM, there's no structure for them to work off. So the sample program to take from that would be a good one to look at to kind of get started and see what's involved in that as well. For the parents and friends, it's a great opportunity for our outsiders to have a look in at what we do within Scouting. We're not very good as an organisation for blowing our own trumpet, and the Parents and Friends AGM is just a fantastic place to start to publicise all the great work that we do within Scouting. So have a read through those when they come out, and definitely just get yourself familiar, take what you want out of it, use them, conjoin them with your own ones as well. So again, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us here this evening, and again, a great thank you to our group leaders for giving up their time this evening. As I said, this webinar will be made available on the website in the coming days and all those resources. But as always, if you have any queries or concerns or anything about that, about the group management or charity regulation, please contact any of the supports that were mentioned there as well. And thanks very much for joining us tonight.